Okay, this tutorial is going to look at making a parametric column in Revit using a standard column template. And let's take a look at a preview of what we're going to be making. So if I look at this in 3D, we'll see that it is a column that has an upper portion and a lower portion, or a column base. And if we look at the family types, we have, in this case, 4 different family types. So the benefit of this is when I load this column into a project file, I can choose from the 4 types that are made within this family file. For example, if I want a 3 foot by 3 foot column, I can click apply and it changes to 3 feet by 3 feet. I'm going to close this column family, and I'm going to choose a new family and select column. So this family template comes with 2 parameters, and those are width and depth. So if I change these both to 1 feet and I click apply, you see the width and depth changes in the drawing area. Okay, so let's first make the upper part of the column. Let's go to extrusion. Let's click on rectangle, and we'll make a rectangle, and we want to constrain it to these reference planes. So I'm going to click on all 4 of the locks, and I'll click on the green check mark. Okay, so when I flex these parameters, it should change the size of the column. So let's just test this out. 1 foot by 1 foot. Click apply, and that's working. So now I want to model the base of the column, and to do that I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to create a new set of reference planes that are 4 inches in from the existing one. So I'm just going to select a reference plane, hold down my control key, and drag it in. And I'll drag these in 4 inches from all sides. Okay, so now I can make another extrusion. Go to the Home tab, Extrusion, choose Rectangle, and I will constrain it to the new set of reference lines. Okay, so I have these 2 parameters, width and depth, that are controlling the upper part of the column. Now I need some parameters to control the size of the base of the column. So I can use the shortcut DI to create a dimension, and I can select that dimension and choose Label, Add Parameter from the options bar, and this is going to be the base width. Okay, so when you're making parameters, it's good practice to test them or flex them. So from the family types, I'm going to change the base width to 6 inches, and I will click apply. And notice it is not equal on either side of the center line of the column. So I want it to be equal, so I'm going to hit cancel and I'll control Z. So what I need to add here is an equal dimension. So I'll type in DI, and I'll click on the EQ symbol. So what this will do when I change the size of that base width, it will be equal on both sides of the center line of the column. So I will do the same thing for the base depth. Type in DI, create a dimension, and label it with a parameter called base depth. And I need my equal dimension. And I'm going to want to test that. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to set up a formula that drives the base width and base depth based on the actual width and depth dimension. So, for instance, if I wanted the base width to always be 1/2 of whatever I set the width to, I can do that. So from the family types, for my base width, I can enter in a formula, and I can say that I want it to be the width, okay, which is defined here, and I have to, it is case sensitive, so I have to type it exactly. So I can say the width divided by 4. And I can click apply, and it makes it 6 inches. So let's make that divided by 2, click apply, and it makes it 1 foot. So this way I only have to adjust my width and depth parameters, and the base width and base depth will update automatically. So let's do the same thing for the depth. So let's look at this column in elevation. Right now we just have 2 extrusions, one inside of the other. So let's select the larger upper portion of the column, and let's drag these shape handles. And let's take the lower portion and drag it up to the upper portion and lock it. Let's set some parameter formulas that control the heights. So again, shortcut DI. And now it's important that I'm dimensioning to the column, not to the reference lines or reference levels in this case. So I can call this one, if I hit escape a couple times, select it, I can label this one height, and let's set one up for the base. Again, it's important that I dimensioned to the base of the column, not the reference level or reference line. And I can label this parameter, and we'll call it base height. So let's set up a formula that controls the base height based on the height of the column. So let's set the base height to be the height divided by 3. And let's change the height of that column to something even. Let's try 6 feet. And you see the base height is changing with it. So where do we want this column to originate from? I would say I want it to originate from the lower reference level, and right now it's floating a distance above it. So one might think, well, I can select the base of that column and I can just click on its shape handles and drag it down. Well, that's going to give me an error. Then my next thought would be, why don't I select the column and move it down? And that's going to give me an error. And the reason is, if I select the base of that column and I go up to Edit Work Plane, it's associated or hosted to the lower reference level. And it's using this extrusion start from the Properties panel as a distance for its offset. So what I need to do to be able to move it down to the lower reference level is I need to disassociate it by clicking on the Disassociate button. Now I can select the entire column and use my shortcut MV, and I can move it down. Now in Revit, the first time that you move, you might get frustrated. For instance, in this case, it's not allowing me to move it vertical, but if I uncheck Constrain from the options bar, I can then move it vertically. Okay, so there's one more step in making sure that it's going to originate from the lower reference level. We need to constrain it to that lower reference level. So I'm going to use the shortcut AL for align, and I'm going to choose the lower reference level and then choose the base of the column and lock it. Hit escape a couple times, and let's just test this out by going to the family types. Let's change the height of the column to 8 feet. Click apply. It seems to be working. Change it to 5 feet. Click apply. So let's make a few different family types so we have some options when we load this column into a project file. So from the family types button, let's click on new, and we'll start with 1 foot by 1 foot. Click OK, and I'll change the width to 1 foot and the depth to 1 foot. Click apply. The next one, click on new, 2 feet by 2 feet. Click OK. Width and depth should be 2 feet. Click apply. And the third one, click on new, 3 feet by 3 feet. We'll click OK. We'll set the width and depth each to 3 feet and click apply. Okay, so now we have 3 different family types for this column.